and then we do it, and then it works.
Yes,
you know?
yes. That, dude, you summed it up.
What is going on, you guys? Hello, and welcome back to the 4 Stars Podcast. My name is Kyle, and we've got our favorite recurring guest on the podcast today, Stephen Bechtold, the health, fitness, mindfulness, everything, sleep, meditation, I would consider guru. And today we're going to be talking about a lot of really cool stuff. So happy to have you guys back on the podcast. And what's going on, Steve?
Well, everything and anything. There's a lot of stuff going on. And I'm excited to share a lot of what's going on with you and everybody else.
For sure.
So, yeah, I guess let's jump right into it.
100%. What's been going on?
Well, recently, I just went to Mexico. We were just talking about this, which is really cool because I went to Mexico, and it's kind of been one of my dreams. I, for the first time, was able to bring my girlfriend, my daughter, and my daughter's mother.
That's awesome.
So me, my girlfriend, my baby mama, and my daughter all went to Mexico, and it was great. You know, it's the modern family. For sure. And it's one of those things that, you know, it's so funny, even just bringing it up to people, they're like, You really think it's going to go okay? Yeah. You think it's going to be fine? Or when I was down there, you know, they're like, oh, are you two together? You two together? Like, is this your daughter? And it's just, it was funny. Awesome. But it was amazing. Yeah. You know, and this is really a dream that I've been having for a long time because Mom and I always have the same goal that what's best for Michaela is, you know, our primary focus. And I know that Michaela, my daughter, Michaela has, you know, really wanted to just have the family all be together. And there's no reason, there's no animosity, there's no, you know, anger or hatred towards each other. So, you know, this is our first time doing it, and it was successful. It went well. You know, I you know, basically couldn't be happier. You know, there's always going to be hiccups here and there, but it was great.
I love to hear that because, like, coming from like a family like that, I've never heard it as a modern family, but I guess that's probably where that comes from. But coming from that background, and I think even, you know, if somebody's younger listening to this, you almost don't realize you look at your parents as like, oh, they're doing whatever, like they're doing what they need to do, right? But you don't like really think about what they're doing. And it's like, hey, parents are humans just like us. And now getting into your 20s or mid 20s, later 20s, you're like, oh wow, like these are the decisions our parents have to make our lives better, hopefully, right? And it's cool to hear that, like that's like to make that all work and make it cohesive, because at the end of the day, it's for the greater good. And I love to hear it. It's just cool because like most of people nowadays, like unless your parents were together, which if they are, that's amazing. But if not, you know what I mean? Like that is what it is.
It's very common, Yeah.
And
I think that's part of it is it's, you know, that's going into the mindfulness, going to the meditation. You know, whenever I, you know, go inward and really focus on like, what is it that I want? You know, that's like one of the huge aspects is, you know, I wanted to, you know, with the cards that I have right now, what's the best hand that I can play? For sure. And I think that you're only limited by your imagination. Yeah. So once you start thinking of these different options, once you start thinking of like, whoa, what could work? And we literally, my girlfriend and I stayed at one resort, and Mom and my daughter were at the other resort a half mile down the street. We each had our own space. We got our own time to do stuff together. We were going to have even like separate dinners, but we ended up just doing like almost every single dinner and stuff together, which was amazing. And it was just really cool to kind of like see, you know, that thought turn into a plan, turn into an actual booking, then see it like come through to the end. Yeah. And that was, you know, definitely a blessing. For sure. Yeah, I think that's really cool because we think about it all the time in our like normal lives of like our plans of action and stuff like that, like in business, but you don't always think about it in like family and relationships, and that's like huge, right? It's like almost like goal setting. Like I wish to be in this area with my relationships to where they can do this and work, and I think it's cool. That's awesome. And so many times I think we look at, you know, our personal life, like we just talked about with business, you know, you look at your personal life and you'll bitch about stuff. Yeah. Or it's like, man, I wish that could be different. Or I wish that could be different. Or if it was only this way, versus looking at like, what is it that I want and how could I create that? Exactly. You know, because there's a lot of, you know, you could go 100 different ways to get to the same destination. Sure. And the hardest thing is clearly defining that destination. Yeah. And if the destination is like, I want to be surrounded by my closest family members and be able to have everybody have fun, you know, and I also think being in a beautiful paradise helps reduce some tensions. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, that was that's really what's been new. and
No, I love to
exciting
hear
in
it.
my life.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. You could tell you're nice and tan. I'm sure
Right,
that
exactly.
helps.
Yep, yep, it looks good. Makes me look more ripped, so I like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. No, I mean that's so cool, man. And I think that's the big thing of like your aura. It's like showing people how life is past being, just a super ripped guy who's in shape. You know what I mean? It's like everything beyond that. And I think that's a lot of the value you have to bring to the table on top of all the health and wellness advice.
Well, thank you. But let's jump into this water bottle now.
Of
Let's
course.
jump into the fasting.
What's in there?
Well, in here, so this is specifically, this is hibiscus tea and what they call their El Nutra like energy drink. So right now I'm doing this prolonged fast.
Okay.
And this was a fasting program. So fasting is in like not eating.
Mm-hmm.
This is a fasting mimicking diet. So
Yeah.
you still are consuming some calories, but this has been designed and refined over years and years and years. The doctor who created this, Dr. Walter Longo, has had, a TED Talk about this. I think is like 5 or 7 years old. I remember looking at a long time ago, and he has this book called the Longevity Diet.
Yeah.
And I read that book about 2 years ago, and this is now my first time personally going through it. When I first read that book, that was the first time I ever really even thought about fasting. I definitely had heard about it before in, the religious circles and different, strategies to reduce diabetes or to kind of help from, becoming diabetic, and even some for cancer. But reading that book was the first time that I really learned the in-depth science behind what happens when we fast on a cellular level and really the benefits that it gives the body.
Mm-hmm. So what is it? I guess we'll break down fasting really quick. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory as to what it is, but I guess let's dive into why it's so beneficial and then go into, why.
So with fasting, I actually just read Dave Asprey, the Bulletproof Diet guy.
Yeah.
He just came out with a new book this year called Fast This Way.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it because when you look into fasting, like almost every other diet, right? Well, now I don't want to call it a diet, but almost like any other thing, there's this way to do it and that way to do it, and this is right and that is wrong. And, he defines fasting as going without.
Yeah.
So you can fast from technology.
Yeah.
You can they call them like dopamine fasts now, where you don't stay away from social media. You can do a fast from carbohydrates. You can do a fast from food, and that's generally what people consider fasting, is going without food. Well, today actually marks the start of Ramadan.
Yeah.
So fasting, can be for religious purposes from dawn to sunset, fasting for a period of time, such as intermittent fasting or time-restricted eating. So it's kind of this blanket term that gets put over everything. But I think the bigger question is not like, are you doing the fast right or wrong? But it's, what are your goals? Like, what are you looking to get from this fast? Because before I went to Mexico, I actually did an experimental fast based on a lot of research that I did. And it was great because it failed. It pissed me off, because I was like, what the hell? I've researched this so much. It didn't work.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it didn't work or if it didn't work for my body.
Yeah.
And by didn't work, that's probably the wrong terminology now that I just said that, is I didn't get the response I was looking for from the type of fast that I was doing. So I guess that was a big, long curtail to saying that fasting, its most simplest terms is going without.
Yeah.
And for the general idea of the term, it's going without food or caloric intake.
What was the response that you were looking for in that particular fast?
Okay, so different types of fasts that I do. Like one that I'll do pretty commonly is like a day fast.
Mm-hmm.
My girlfriend normally does this every week. And I'm a huge believer in doing like a weekly day fast because metabolic flexibility is so important. And what that means is using sugars or carbohydrates as our main energy source, our body prefers that. It loves to use glucose, glycolysis.
Yeah.
And to get it to go from using glucose to using ketones or going into ketosis means that you need to not have those carbohydrates available.
Yeah.
Right? So that's like the keto diet.
Mm-hmm.
What do? You eat so minimal carbs, you have to be very strict on the amount of carbs that you have so that way your body continues to produce ketones. Now, ketosis it's a remarkable process within our body. It's actually designed to help protect us and save us. The fastest way to go into ketosis is to starve yourself, to fast, right? And that's why the body has it, because if we weren't able to get carbohydrates or food or sugars or something in, we needed to be able to have this fat stored in our body, these stores, and use them for energy. And when we are in ketosis, it's got a ton of benefits. I mean, first off, it's like rocket fuel. Like our body is so efficient when it's in ketosis. And I think for, ultra marathon runners, endurance athletes, there's a lot of science coming out now. There's another book I read, The Art and Science of Low Carbohydrate Performance, of using ketones and having athletes have their body in ketosis for endurance and long, maybe not bodybuilding, I wouldn't recommend it, but some long distance running, stuff like that, marathons. I mean, it can really, really get these athletes to a whole nother level. And the fast that I was doing before vacation was really an ego fast, or like I wanted to look good. I was kind of like, all right, every once in a while, if you have like a bad weekend and then all of a sudden turns into a bad Monday, and then you have a couple extra slip ups, and it doesn't have to be horrible food, but you start to feel backed up. We don't need to get graphic on this, but you just, that there's some stuff that needs to work through you. And it had been a while since I'd done at least a 1 day fast. And I was like, let me see if I can do a little bit more of a prolonged fast, not this, but a little bit more of a multi-day fast. And can I do it in the easiest way possible? And I said, so what are my goals? Like, if you're going for like gut reset to help your digestive tract, or to really push autophagy, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit later, is cellular cleanup. Not having any calories come in is probably the fastest and best way to get there. But my goal wasn't that. My goal was, hey, can I push everything through? Can I give my body a little bit of a relax? And then can I keep my body in ketosis? And then the other side of it, like I've got my glucose monitor on here. I was pricking my finger, literally like 4 to 5 times a day, just to see after every not bite because I didn't actually eat anything, but if I drink something, what happened? Did it spike up? Did it raise my ketones? Did it drop my ketones? And I was just trying to be as scientific as I could, because in a lot of literature I read, they talk about like bulletproof coffee, right? And that's what I did, is I basically just did bulletproof coffees. Is I was like, let me get some, ghee butter or grass-fed butter in there, a little bit of MCT oil. This is all fats, be totally keto. And the MCT oil is supposed to essentially turn into beta hydroxybutyrate, which are ketones, and it's supposed to raise your ketone level. So it's also something that I've been experimenting with. Is dinner, I'll usually have vegetables and like a lean protein, and then having a little MCT oil on it actually gets me more in ketosis by the next morning. So I was like, with all this stuff that I kind of know about it, I wonder if I can like trick my body into thinking I'm getting calories to make this as seamless and easy as possible, keep my glucose down, and then raise my ketones up. And in theory, it sounds good, right? All of that's like, it's only fat. It's only MCT oil. That should boost it up. You're not getting anything else in. And I went through the first day. Didn't really need much. I kind of did a fast for, I think it was the first 36 hours before I did my first bulletproof coffee. And I did the bulletproof coffee. I put the butter in, put the MCT oil in. I did 1 tablespoon of each, in case anybody's wondering, which still comes out to almost 400 calories. So it's not a fast, a purist fast, so I, felt great, checked my blood sugar. It didn't spike or anything afterwards. The one couple of things I did notice is I went to get an IV, and getting an IV done spiked my blood sugar. It was vitamin C, zinc, and calcium. And I actually don't know the answer as to why it did yet. So I'm going to dive a little deeper into that. But that did spike my blood sugar. Also, any type of activity. So if I go to work out, your blood sugar will spike just because the body's, releasing and exercising. So if I did the sauna, if I had an IV, or if I exercise, I would expect a spike in my blood sugar. But after I drank the coffee with just the butter and MCT oil, I was expecting no spike. So through the morning, all good. Then I was planning to do 2 of these coffees throughout the day. And actually, that was just my first day. So let me get through this. So I was fasting about 36 hours, had my coffee, went through the whole rest of the day, jumped into the next day, which is kind of day 3, I guess, or 2.5, however you look at it. Started in the morning with my bulletproof coffee. Everything went good. Looked at all the numbers on there. Good to go. In the evening, I went and I was like, I was just going to do decaf coffee to have a second one. I was like, I don't really feel like that. And Dave Asprey got the whole idea of bulletproof coffee from yak butter tea. So I was like, I've never had tea with this before. Let me try it out. So I walked over to CVS after my visit, getting my IV done, and I picked up the sweet leaf tea, unsweetened, 0 calories, nothing in it. And I get home and I pour it in the blender, put my butter, put my MCT oil in, blend it up, drink it down. Then it was like, getting closer to bedtime. I'm like, all right, let me prick my fingers again. And at this point, I'm, almost 2 full days in or whatever. And I'm like, man, I should really be in ketosis right now. And then all I have to do is get to sleeping throughout the night. My stomach feels full. This has been the easiest thing ever. I prick my finger and my blood sugar is up through the roof. Not through the roof, but like not where I was expecting it. I was expecting to see like high 60s, low 70s. I was like 120. And I was like, what is in that tea?
Yeah.
And I can't blame the tea. I don't know what it was exactly. But the one thing I was curious on is it has citric acid in it. I don't know if citric acid is similar to ascorbic acid and the vitamin C. So that's just where my mind's going. I got to do research. No answers on this. But it kicked me out of it a little bit. However, the goals that I had for myself, that I wanted my tummy to shrink in a little bit, that I wanted to push everything through and kind of get a little bit more ripped, it worked.
Yeah.
It worked for that.
Yeah.
So it was half failure, half success. And what I think with it is next time I do it, I think I'm going to try it with just MCT oil.
Yeah.
Just the oil. The only thing you got to watch with that is if you
digestion
do.
is.
Yeah.
I remember doing it like 4 years ago. My old roommate was really into bulletproof stuff, and he always had, because he was into Dave Asprey and stuff. And that, I think it's great for sustained energy, but yeah, digestion wise, you take a lot of MCT oil, like you got to be very
get
sparing.
Disaster pants. Yeah. You need to be within arm's reach of a toilet.
Yeah.
So sip on it slowly, and
Yeah.
I wouldn't even start with a full tablespoon unless you're used to it. A
Yeah.
half tablespoon, just because it kind of just makes you flush through. It's like it's like taking a laxative. But yeah, for my goals, the biggest thing that I was just upset with is that my blood sugar spiked after one of the times that I felt it shouldn't.
Yeah.
And which kicked me out of ketosis. So then my ketone level dropped, my glucose was back up, and I'm like, damn, like 2 days into this, and I had to have a tea because I didn't want to have decaf coffee.
Yeah.
And here I am kicked out of ketosis. So that was me being a little baby about it. But in the end, I think it was really beneficial because I think a lot of people can take value from this because fasting's not easy.
Yeah.
And if you're not used to going a day or 2 or 3 days with literally just water, the idea sounds insane.
Yeah.
But being able to step in and touch your toe in the water and be like, okay, this isn't too bad. Or maybe, hey, you stop eating Sunday night and you go through till Monday morning, and then you try and go as much as you can in the afternoon, and then maybe you start it with just one of these coffees.
Yeah.
And hey, if that's not going to kick you out of it, go you.
Yeah.
Like, keep on pushing it. Who knows, maybe you can do one coffee, do an entire fast for a day, and be like, damn, that was easy.
Yeah.
And that could be a good way for people to kind of like test the waters and get into it. And that's where I think my failure could still be a success.
Do you think, like, so between, just to make the lines like less blurry, I guess, between the two, like fasting and ketosis, I know you fast to get into ketosis, but is there additional benefits aside from just complete caloric deprivation with fasting versus ingesting fats and stuff like that?
Awesome question. And I'm really glad you made that distinction because for a long time I was confused by that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, wait, what? Like, isn't it the same thing? Is it not? If I'm having low carbohydrates, is that the same benefits as fasting? So, and that's a great segue into like this program.
Yeah.
So if you're doing just straight fasting, like a water only fast, like maybe you just have black coffee, no sweetener in it, tea, no sweetener in it, and water. That's it. Also, another thing that I recommend if you're doing the fast like that is have like magnesium, your minerals, maybe even some electrolytes. They have like different powders that you could add in. Or one trick that I do is I'll take like a bouillon cube, which is basically salt, and you just boil that in some water and drink it or eat it like it's a soup. And those electrolytes, those minerals can really help push you, because sometimes it's a deprivation in those that really makes you feel hungry. So sorry with that big preface there.
No, I like that. Yeah.
The difference between the two is ketosis is the metabolic flexibility of using fat as an energy source. And that definitely coincides with fasting. You're going to get there. However, when you go no calories, you're going to, well, first off, get to ketosis really fast. But once you push past that, once you go to about day 2, 48, I'd say around that 60-hour mark, 2.5 days, 60 to 72 hours, all of a sudden your body goes, oh, shit. Are we going to get food again? Yeah. And it's like, we might not. Yeah. And what it starts to do is it does cellular cleanup. Yeah. And analogy, I think we might have used this one before. It's called autophagy. And autophagy is autophagy. And what that means is it's self-eating. Yeah. So that's, the Greek terminology, if you want to know the root of the word. But what happens is, we're on this train. It's a wood-burning train, right? And it's going. This train is your body. And then all of a sudden, they're like, oh, shit, there's no more wood. Yeah. There's no more food coming in. What are we going to do? And it's like, well, the next station's like 10 miles away. We got to get there, So then they go, well, go through, look at all the benches. Let's look at all the broken pieces. That bathroom door's been broken for 2 years. Yeah. Let's take that down, throw it in the engine. Oh, my gosh, that stool right there is got splinters sticking out of it. Let's throw that in the engine. And that's what your body does is it goes through and it cleans up bad organelles, cells that may be malfunctioning or not really working properly. And what it does is it literally goes in and self-eats those. Yeah. So, and also another thing is there's different levels of autophagy. So the one that I'm talking about is called chaperone-mediated autophagy. And that's the one that takes like that 60 to 72 hours. And basically your body sends these little guys around. They go encapsulate these and digest it and then use it for energy. Yeah. So what's great about that is we have seen so much benefit for this. That's what this guy's entire book was basically about. Yeah. And what we see with that is that cellular cleanup helps reduce inflammation within the body. It helps reduce risk for cognitive decline, Alzheimer's. It helps reduce risk for type 2 diabetes. And this cellular cleanup also helps your body feel better. Maybe during the fast, you're not feeling the best, but afterwards, it's like a lot of those aches and pains that I have are gone, which is crazy to think that starving myself for 3 days can make my joints feel better.
For sure. Yeah, I guess my question would be, so it seems like, for example, a specific diet, the reason the diet exists is to get to it, whether it be quicker, more sustainably, because sustainably means doing it more than 24 hours, right? Because most people can do maybe that, but doing it for like 3 days, which, autophagy, okay, is how you do autophagy, or how you get there. That's kind of the end goal. And if the end goal, I look at it as like, there's obviously, I know I have no reason not to believe it, but there's obviously like a lot of science behind autophagy, right? I'd figure, right? I guess it's like one of those hacks where like, I know Robert Greene talks about in all his books, it's completely separate subjects, but kind of like how things are like, we have a several million-year-old brain, right? Things aren't going to magically just change. Like social media comes into our life. Our brain is not adapting to social media. We don't adapt that fast. Yeah, we're using our animalistic tendencies with now, right? So these things like autophagy, I look at it as like, okay, yeah, we got processed foods. We have access to food all the time. Things that probably weren't here 200, 300 million years ago, whatever you want to say, right? So our bodies are designed to do this and run really well, but we don't know it's going to do that. So people research and figure it out, and then we do it, and then it works.
Yes. That, dude, you summed it up, put a bow on it so perfectly. You don't even need to listen to all the crap that I said before that. That's exactly it. I mean, our bodies, like, to sit there and be like, man, I haven't eaten since last night and it's 2 p.m. Like, dude, if our bodies were designed that way, we would have died a long time ago in evolution. Yeah. But what we see is, we were made to go times without. We were made to thrive in those times. And a lot of worries that people get are, am I going to be so cloudy and foggy? And you may. And if you are, chances are your body's addicted to sugar. Yeah. Because this flexibility is something that's innate in our genome, right? And it's one of those things that what happens, and if we use that example of going back, back in time to the cavemen, let's say you had a meal, everything's good, you got some fruit, whatnot, you got sugar, everything going on, and then you go one day without it, weren't able to get anything in the hunt, or a nomad going around. As those days progress, what happens is the body has to then prioritize what's more important. And our brain is going to be really important, because the idea behind it is, look, if you don't figure this out, we're going to die.
Yeah.
So when your body starts running on ketones, and this is actually one of the huge benefits I feel of the keto diet, is you feel so mentally sharp and acute. So as right now, I'm a second day into my fast, and this can be a struggle point for a lot of people. However, I just did, that other fast just 2.5 weeks ago. For me personally, what I found is if I at least do a 1-day fast, which I guess technically is 36 hours, because I'll, let's say, stop eating in the evening on Friday.
Yeah.
And then I won't eat again until Sunday morning, right? So it's like half a day, night, into the next full morning. Excuse me. And what I noticed with that is if I go 3 or 4 weeks without doing at least a 1-day fast or something modified, it sucks. It does not feel good. The second day is you just feel a little run down, your brain's a little cloudy, and your body doesn't really like you.
Yeah.
And I think that's because, when in our evolution would we have a surplus of food for 3 to 4 weeks straight?
And then it just gets taken away from us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Sure. But now the benefit of that getting taken away from us is resilience. Anytime that our body goes under a mild stressor, whether it's exercise, whether it's holding your breath, like diving tables and diving charts, it has to adapt to that stress. Cold therapy, hot therapy, all of those things. When it adapts to that stress, it usually makes, it overcompensates.
Yeah.
And that overcompensation is kind of what we're playing with here.
Yeah.
So it's like, I want to fast just enough that my body has to overcompensate, and then I'm going to get some food back in. Hopefully it's nutritious and what you need. But then that overcompensation is going to flood over to a multitude of benefits.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy. No, that makes a lot of sense. The only question I have, and I think some people might be curious, is when is it, because we've all heard of you start to starve. I don't know if it eats at your brain or whatever it is, or things start to shut down. You need calories to survive. Where do you draw that line between hey, this is healthy for me and this is hurting me, eating muscle, whatever it may be, right?
I think that's another really great question. A lot of that is twofold, and they're the same coin, both sides, right?
Yeah.
Is what are your goals personally? So I'm kind of towing that line myself. That's a great question for me, because I'm focusing so much on muscle building and I'm focusing so much on wanting to gain weight that this it is very detrimental to that goal. It's sometimes very, very hard. Coming from a, men's physique competition bodybuilding background, this is like the Antichrist.
Yeah.
Your body's going catabolic. You're eating your own tissue.
Yeah.
And what happens though is this is where the magic is. When you start getting past that level, when you're getting to that chaperone-mediated autophagy, your bone marrow starts to release stem cells. This is more around day 4 and 5, and that's literally what this whole program is designed around. It starts to release stem cells. So now that train, right? It's basically like you had to burn up all those pieces, but now you're getting the best wood, the best timber, perfectly cut once you get back to that station.
Yeah.
And that's what they've noticed in, clinical trials with mice. If they go through a fasting program, which is a lot different because, after a couple days, mice die, they have a different metabolism than we do.
Yeah.
But when they go through a few days, their organs will literally shrink.
Yeah.
The autophagy will literally make the size of the organ smaller.
Really?
But then when they refeed, it only takes them about 2 weeks to grow back. And what's crazy is, they'll obviously dissect some of these mice at different points inside of it, and you can literally see the size and shape. And let's say it was the liver, and it had fatty liver disease, and you see all these spots over it. They fast for a few days. The body eats all of that up, and then you could see, this is one of the ones they dissected that fasted for a few days. It's shrunk. It's literally 20% smaller.
Wow.
And then once they refeed with a healthy diet, it grows back to the original size, healthy.
Wow.
It's literally crazy to when you see a picture like that. I think it's so powerful. But that's a lot of the reasons why I do it. One of the things that I also feel is with bodybuilding, with, trying to gain muscle constantly, I'm putting calories and food into my body all the time. And there's got to be some harm caused by that,
sure.
whether it's inflammation, whether it's I'm building muscle and you're building on top of cells, scar tissue buildup, all of this stuff. So I really think that going around doing this cleanup and allowing your body to stimulate the stem cell production is one of the best practices and tools that we have to living forever and basically having longevity. Fasting and sleep fast, right?
Yeah, right.
Those two literally are our genetic biological weapon to aging.
And you can I guess this is like what you're about, so you can swear by. I guess my thing is not doubting it in any way, shape, or form. It's like we know it. That's the thing that bothers me about key principles in life. You know it so well, you've heard it so many times that you almost goes over your head.
Yep.
You're I've heard about it. I heard about sleep.
Yep.
I heard about fasting, and it's no, pay attention. Actually try it. And then, but knowing so much, I think that's another angle where you come in really hard with all the data to back it up and the science. So that makes it no. This isn't just for fun. This isn't a practice round. This is actually your life. This is actually you.
And part of that is because I'm the biggest that's bullshit.
Yeah,
that's bullshit. And I remember for the longest time, those. Do you ever seen those arm cuffs? They call them blood flow restriction bands.
Okay.
It was. I remember seeing this years ago. Basically, they put tourniquets on their arms, so it kind of reduces blood flow, and they were, the whole theory was oh, you work out with these and your arms get bigger and blah blah blah. I was like, dude, that sounds like the biggest bullshit I've ever heard in my entire life. And then years later, I started to see wait, physical therapy offices use this? And then all of a sudden I started doing research and diving in, and I found out damn, there's a lot of science behind this.
Wow.
And I just bring that up because I remember literally in high school, I remember seeing this, and I was just after that, and after I saw the research behind it and realized the benefits and why it worked, I was anytime I hear something that's that crazy, I at least research it, at least figure it out, give it a shot. And with doing that, that's where I've seen, with fasting, how it makes me feel. I mean, the mental clarity that you get after you get over that hump of the discomfort is amazing. Because like I said, if we're back into the nomad times, your body's going to prioritize you figuring it out.
Yeah.
And you're able to perform and do all of this. And then it actually kind of feels good to be empty.
Yeah.
The body does need time off. If it's in growth mode all the time, that's where cancer cells proliferate. That's where, all these inflammatory signals go through the roof. You fast for a few days, your inflammation is down, like crashed down, So it's a really, really great tactic and benefit on so many different levels.
Wow, that's a good point. I think that'll stick with people too. The cancer cell, if you never give your body a rest, it's gonna it's like growing a garden, watering a garden every day. There's gonna be weeds that come up unless you clean the weeds out one day. You know what I mean?
Dude, you are spinning gold today. No. God damn, we don't need the science. We'll just take clips of all your stories.
No, but that's I only like breaking it down and making it dumbing it down only because I'm these are the questions I'm internally asking. So I'm okay, if I'm asking, I'm sure somebody else is, but it's coming from a super credible source and you live it. It just bothers me so much that it's you get the actual answers. It's your body, you already have this tool that does it, right? I'll be the first person you're oh, this is a new way to get caffeine. It's the healthiest way to wake up or whatever. I'm oh, I'm in line. I'm ready to buy it, right? I love coffee and this and that and energy drinks or whatever, which I know is bad, but sparingly, whatever. But it's you won't just be if I just slept more, I worked on this, it's gonna happen naturally. But we always go towards what's easier. Obviously, I guess I don't know if I should use the word easier, but we go towards what's external, right? External, changing your state. Tony Robbins talks about it. You always want to do it. You don't want to do exercise. You want to drink alcohol, whatever. And I think this is no different. So I just want to drive that point home of paying attention. Sleep fast is such a big deal, and doing these things and not looking at them as some woo-woo concept. It's no, our bodies are way older than us. We're just we live here for a short period of time.
Yep.
And the shit was already figured out a long time ago.
Yep. This is a survival technique that made us get here today.
Yeah.
And if we didn't have this, I'm pretty sure we would not be here today. And that's why like I got really interested in doing this program because, before I went on vacation, I tried doing, how can I make this the easiest fast possible and get myself ripped?
Yeah.
And that was the idea of, basically trying to be in as much ketosis as possible and burn off fat. This one, I was like, let me just use what the expert who literally wrote the book on this did. And it's a 5-day fast. So I'm on day 2 right now. And the first day I think it's like 1,100 calories, something like that. You get like 2 soups, 2 little bars, and then just some little supplements that you take. And, it really wasn't much of a problem. Today hasn't been much of a problem either. I've got 4 other clients doing it with me. Not all of us are having the same experience, so we are supporting each other through it. But normally after today, today is usually the hump, that second day. By day 3, midday through day 3, you're usually going to be into ketosis, burning off, and your body's actually going to feel good. Day 4 and 5 are usually then a little bit easier. And what happens is, like, now that I'm on day 2 through 5, the next 4 days after day 1 are 750 calories.
Okay.
So I'm used to eating 3,300 to 4,000 calories a day, depending on what workout I had. If I, I'm training more clients, doing extra sauna or anything like that. So it's definitely a little shock to my caloric intake for sure. But it's so nutrient dense and so well designed that I've felt great. And the soups are actually really delicious. I've liked each of them thus far. And I'm really excited because this actual program was funded by the National Institute of Health and the National Institute on Aging.
Wow.
So it's got some research backing it, and it's been tested and scrutinized. They also have used this before for cancer patients. Now, it depends on how far along. It's more one of those things that earlier on, so yes, this is not medical advice or anything like that. But what they found is cancer cells just grow. They don't listen to anything else. They don't respond to anything else. They just are growing and trying to consume and just multiply and proliferate, right? What happens is when you start fasting, the body goes, oh shit, what's going on? Wait, we're not getting any food in. Hang on, hunker down. Everybody hunker down. We got to preserve our body. Don't expend energy unless it's needed. So all of our cells that can hear that signal are hunkering down. I heard it was an analogy actually in his book where he said, imagine you're, in ancient times and you have the Greek army and the Roman army coming up, right? And they're going to battle each other. And then hidden, you have archers. And then all of a sudden the archers, let's say they're on the Greek side, right? So the archers go up and then all of a sudden, right before they shoot the arrows, they say shield, but they say it in Greek. So at the last second, all of the people who can understand Greek shield themselves. All of the Roman soldiers who can't understand what that was just said, all the arrows come in and hit them.
Wow.
That's what happens to the cancer cells.
That's
right?
crazy.
So essentially, you're starving your body. Your body goes, oh, crap. Something's going on. Let's hunker down, preserve energy. Cancer's like, oh, it's a party. Let's go. Let's proliferate. Let's do this and this. Then when they do treatments, the treatments are actually more beneficial because the body is more resilient against it because it's hunkered down, and the cancer cells are more susceptible because they're open at that time.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So when I learned that, in addition to the stem cell production, it's going to help the body recover from that, very hard chemotherapy. And it's not for everybody, and fasting is definitely something that can be very, not good with cancer. So it's hyper specific, but that is some of the big research that came from that book that just fascinated me, that I was like, okay, there's something to this. Let me give it a shot.
For sure. And this is just more of like you were saying, like certain teas, certain sparkling waters, certain soups is what this diet is, right?
Yep. So with this diet, I'm doing it as by the books as I can. They don't want you to really have coffee. You could do like 6 or 8 ounce cup per day, but they recommend, to go without it unless you need it.
For sure.
So I'm like, whatever, I'll just go without it. And I think that's debatable. Because I've really tried to research, like, why did they say not have coffee? Because there's other, fasting gurus who are a huge proponent of black coffee that actually boosts your body's ability to get into a deeper state of fasting. And I've seen a lot of research for that. The only research I saw as to why you shouldn't do coffee with this is because in those studies that those agencies funded, those studies that were scrutinized, they were on just this program. They didn't add in extra coffee. They didn't have anything else. So there wasn't a, this is why it's bad for you, but it's more a, this is what was studied.
Yeah.
Do what was studied.
For sure.
Yep. So right now, yeah, you can have sparkling water. So I got like every different flavor of bubbly. I got my San Pellegrino. I got my Fiji water. You can have tea, decaffeinated tea. So this is like a hibiscus tea that they gave. They also give you spearmint teas because the spearmint is also designed to help boost the fasting signals. And all of the meals are just so specifically designed by what they have in them to minimally spike glucose, if at all. So that's why I have my monitor on right now. I've been checking it, pricking my fingers, and I'm already, this is only midday through day 2. At this morning, I was in a moderate level of ketosis.
Wow.
I was at, I think it was like 1.9 ketones and 68 blood sugar, which probably doesn't mean much to 90% of people. But for those 10% that it does, you know what's up.
No, that's so cool. I love to hear it. I mean, I think that's the thing with different diets is you're not doing this. I mean, you can do it to like range your, fat burning capabilities and stuff like that. But I mean, I think we both agree that like a pretty balanced like diet, which, that's more towards physique. I mean, as a guy, you kind of want to like, if you're working out every day, you need carbs and all this different stuff. But for the reparation process of everything, it's important to do so. I don't know, people can go either way. You can have your opinions on different diets. This has nothing to do with a certain diet.
I now have a new theory with this as well. So one of the things that I've noticed, and this is going to seem like such a dumb moment, but it's so true. And I have one of my clients doing this is sometimes we have it so good. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, I'm eating, this chicken breasts and rice and broccoli. God, I'm so sick of this crap. And then you are able to get meal prep and you're like, oh my God, this is like the food of the gods. Like people are cooking for me. I don't have to waste my time for this. And I can get grass-fed steak and now I can have chicken marinated versus just baked chicken every single day. And then what happens? You start doing that for a month and then you're sick of that.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I don't like the way this tastes.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you become the biggest baby. Like, but I want some crunchy. I want some fried. And what I found is by doing like the day fast, it kind of resets me. And it's almost more of a like emotional and mental thing as well, because eating can become so emotional. It's so addicting. And the smells, the sights, everything. You go a few days without eating, that stuff, you're like, chicken, broccoli, and rice. Oh
so
my God, this is the best thing ever. So mentally, I think it gives me a reset, which really, really helps me stay with good adherence to my normal nutrition program. So that's one of the reasons why I like doing just a one-day fast every once in a while. It just kind of resets the mentality. And then also you start to recognize how much of a difference there is between being hungry and having a craving. And if you don't fast, I think it's very hard for you to know the difference. And I thought that I did for the longest time. And, I'm getting lightheaded. My blood sugar is dropping, going hypoglycemic. This is going to be bad. It was just a craving. And almost all of them are just cravings. And being able to separate from that, I think there's also something about going through the journey. Going a couple days without eating, almost sounds like, damn, I'm like Superman. And, on the other side of that, you're able to talk yourself down from other cravings you have, other addictions that you have. And that's what I think is really, really powerful. Like I do a lot of it for the body, but there's also so much benefit for the mind, not only on a cellular level, but also on a conscious level.
For sure. That's awesome. No, I think that's a great way to wrap up this too. Like, cause it's like, you kind of get the full spectrum of like why you do it, how you do it, and why it's so important to do it. And like I was saying, like it's not really a diet. It's more of like something you can systematically do in whatever diet, whether you're vegetarian or vegan or keto or whatever.
Going without eating doesn't require you to eat a certain way.
You just consider it like a social media detox. Like you want that for your brain. Now think about your body. Think about everything below the neck, right? Like, and I mean probably above too when it comes down to ketones and stuff like that. I'm sure I know it affects your brains positively, but. Man, I think that's awesome. And I think we should, with this, I think you're going to have more info for the next, podcast. We can do an update of like how you think it is sustainability wise. Like, cause I think you're going to find out next, like the next step of fasting for you, I feel like, is figuring out what's most sustainable for like the longest period of time.
I'm going to be excited to share what happens with this too, because already, you know, going into it, I was a little bit lower weight than I wanted to starting it. So it's a little bit of a struggle with the ego on that side that I'm going to be losing muscle like we talked about. But I'm excited to see afterwards, like, okay, am I 5 pounds lower than I want to be, 8 pounds lower than me, 2 pounds, I don't know. But wherever I end up, how long does it take me to get back? And then what does it look like when I get back?
Got
so
it.
I'm going to be really excited to share what happens there.
Awesome. Well, I love to hear it. Where can everybody find you? And
sleepfastcoach.com is always the best way. Steven.Bechtold on Instagram.
Sweet.
From there.
Yeah, no, 100%. You guys can find me on Instagram at Sulkar Media, at Kyle Sulkar for all the personal stuff, and then at 4 Stars Podcast for behind the scenes clips. You guys follow us on there. Shoot us any questions you may have. We're looking forward to, you know, continually busting out stuff going into the spring, summer. Excited, and going to make some set changes soon too for this new season. We're 11, 12 episodes deep now, so I'm excited. And guys, as always, this is 4 Stars Podcast. Keep chasing the fifth. Peace.